If you're bored of Atreides boxes and Harkonnen cubes, it might be time to get back to basics with the CHOAM build set, and today we are creating something truly unique, the CHOAM Dome, a cheap, easy and spacious base within a single advanced subfief. The requirements are on screen now. I do highly recommend the observer pieces. You don't absolutely need to use them, but they do work well. So let's get started. Start off by building the baseplate as shown in the blueprint. If you're new to building with wedges, this can be complex and fairly unclear while building on the ground level. Follow the blueprint layout carefully though and you'll get it right. You'll also want to be mindful of the grain of the pieces. CHOAM facility foundations have lines in the tiles, you can see it on the preview, so make sure all of these lines run the same way, and when they do turn, they connect end to end. It'll end up being much more aesthetically pleasing in the final result. Starting off on the ground floor walls, we're going to follow a pretty simple pattern. On the wedge towers at each corner, use window 2s to make them bulge at the bottom, and window 1s everywhere else, leaving a 2x2 for a pentashield at the front of the build. The CHOAM Dome is going to basically be open plan, so we're leaving a lot of empty space. Above the windows, simply just place a line of wall 2s to bring the walls up to a total height of 2 tiles. On either side of the entrance, place stairs running up to the top of the walls. Then, partially cap off the walls with ceilings matching the shape of the tiles below. For proper coverage, build the ceilings as seen in the diagram on screen now. Make sure to keep an eye on the grain again, and on the square tiles against the perimeter wall I used observer ceilings to introduce a little bit of light and make those segments stand out on the ground floor. For the start of the first floor walls, place observer windows on the 3 outward faces on each corner tower. If you don't have the observer pieces, you could do custom windows instead. I've linked the tips video showing how to build them in the top right. Once the ceilings were complete, use holograms to build walls up over the 2x2 pentashield gap and fill the hologram at the top. It won't snap natively on its own, but by doing this, you can force these walls to take side support from the adjacent walls. Once the hologram is filled, delete the ones below it. Continuing with the walls, place wall 1s between all of the observer windows. On the second tile, place observer walls above the observer windows on the corner towers. Next we're going to build the roofs. Use angled roofs between the towers. To transition these roofs smoothly, use triangle wall tops to snap them against the roof, half a tile beneath the top of the towers. When they're all done, add a half wall atop each of the triangle walls. Once that's complete, add triangle roof pieces above the straight roofs, matching the shape of the tiles below. Atop each tower, add a ring of CHOAM passageways. To finish off this ring, we're going to use the hologram trick again. Build one wall and two half walls atop it in the hologram mode, then add a passageway on the third tile. complete the passageway and the half wall beneath it, then delete the holograms below to, again, force the walls to take side support from the nearby walls. Repeat this same technique on each tower to ensure full enclosure. I'll have a separate follow-up video about this tip. It's insanely useful for fixing instances of kind of dodgy snapping, as you just can't do this natively as the snap point itself isn't available. When all the towers are finished up, close off the top with triangle floors. Again, be mindful of the grain. When you've done that, add straight roof pieces between the roof triangles. So now we've got a large gap in the roof, we're going to do something unique. Place triangle floors on each of the edges of the squares, and between the triangles place hatches. This is going to end up in something I call a revolver roof, in that it looks similar to a revolver cylinder. Up on the roof, I'm going to disable automatic closing on all of these hatches. This will essentially function as a skylight, but having that gap in the roof won't compromise your base integrity. You will still be water sealed despite them being open. When they're all set, use triangle rooftops all tapered into the centre underneath to create a sort of drooping central detail. On top of the centre, use the same roofs to create a small dome right in the middle. Repeat this dome on the top of each corner tower too. You don't have to do this next part, it might not be to your liking, but I chose to add central columns right in the middle of each roof to stick out. To make sure it gels properly, turn each column so that the wider side is facing outwards. I like this aesthetic, but again, it's entirely up to you. Lastly, the finishing touches. Inside, use CHOAM facility railings to close off all of the edges. Next, use triangle rooftops on the ground floor of each corner tower to create a vaulted ceiling design. This doesn't really clip through to the floor above to any meaningful degree, but it adds in a little touch of shape that helps out with any potential flatness. On the edge of the main roof, build a strip of railings to add a little colour break on the exterior. Build the pentashield at the entrance as per the blueprint. Finally, replace the square ceilings connected to the front towers on the first floor with round ones. This opens the build up a little more visually and it just works a lot better. With the build complete, we now have an attractive and unique base design. I built this over in the Udon, but really, you can construct this anywhere. Dune is a game that really lends itself to angles and box type architecture, but the motif of this build is smooth curves, and I think that works quite well. On the interior, I've thrown down a few crafting stations just to give some scale, but the real star of this build is how much room you have. By keeping it simple and leaving everything open plan, you end up with a ton of workable space, and importantly, it feels like the base has room to breathe. The atmosphere is dense in parts, especially deep into the build on the ground floor, but there's a near omnipresent element of verticality and space and just general scale, which is always a great aspect to have when you can get it. The top floor is quite dynamic in regards of airiness and breathability. The corner towers are open topped, so whenever you step into them you get a bit of extra light and a view of the sky, which contrasts the rest of the base quite well. The revolver roof is really a unique feature here, and also serves as a practical consideration for yourself and other players. I'm a big advocate in having a way in and out of your base for passing players to dodge the sun or sandstorms, and this is a great option, so long as they have a claw or a suspenser to get back out, but of course they can also climb out through the corner towers. I added a storage rack on this floor too, just to give you an idea of how much space you're looking at. You are missing out on some space by not fully covering the floor below, but aesthetics are, in my opinion, just as important as efficiency. All in all, the CHOAM Dome ends up as a pretty unique design that is bound to turn heads on Arrakis. The best part is that it's really quite simple. There's nothing that fancy going on aside from some simple fundamentals and one or two unique features, but sometimes that's all you need. The only thing this build is really missing is a good solution for an ornithopter. You can of course park and VBT your orni, but a hangar would have been nice. To do that properly it would have required an inversion, it'd throw the shape of the whole base off. If you have an assault or carrier, then this base probably won't be ideal for you, but if you just use a regular scout, it'll be great. Of course, there's more than enough room inside for a sandbike and a buggy, hence the pentashield to make life easier in that regard. I hope you guys enjoyed this build. It's something I've had in mind for a little while now, and I think it turned out quite nicely. It was easier than expected, and I also learned a couple of new tricks that I'll work on giving you a full tutorial for in the future. If you'd like a copy of this base yourself, there are about 10 Solido replicators up for sale on the Hagal World Cluster. Anyway, that will wrap us up for today. If you have any future build suggestions, do leave them in the comments. A massive thanks to our wonderful esteemed coffee cultists for continuing to support the channel over on Patreon. Do check out the Patreon page through the link in the description. There's early access to videos, wallpapers, video credits and much more, and joining us of course helps out the channel massively. Take care, and I'll see you soon.